Hello. Um, so there's been a lot of people who are starting to play Marionette with the increase in excitement, and there's Pro Quest seasons coming up, and just a bit of an influx of players into the game. I thought I'd make this video where I'm just going to talk about some cards, what they do, what they're meant to do, and any alternatives that might be useful for you, and just kind of explain why we run these cards and what they're there for, and then you can either use the list I'm going to show and talk about, or you can copy change it based on some of the things I've talked about in this video. And I'm just going to do some practice test hands just so you can just have a rough idea of how like stuff looks, because obviously I know like a lot of people have that foundation of they've already been playing the deck, then they'll have no issues, but just here to help people get into it. So obviously we have Marionette. Very simple. Your self attacks get +1 when they're marked. If they're marked, you transform. And it's kind of like your best mode for a lot of the game. But when your deck is like quite red heavy, it's really good to have this because all you're doing is just making your turns +1 value. But when you have blues or have other cards that can't extend to value, then it's really broken to be one of the transformed ones. Oh, they didn't show it this way. It's really strong to be someone that's transformed because then you get to cheat value on some bad cards into good cards. But yeah, basic premise of cards in this deck are we have our disruption cards, which are like Command and Conquer, Leave No Witness, Codex, and Mark the Black Widow red. And then we have these blue ones like Prognosis and Surgical. But we don't really want to be resolving these because they're just not as efficient as resolving a different card. So these are usually like if they've been pondered or if we've had too many blues and we just have to throw it out there. So the current Marionette deck, I would class as like because there's like the labels on Fab are just like well, it's like a mid-range aggro deck. So we have really good, efficient, proactive cards that are like our deck's just full of 0/4, 0/3s. We've got some 2 blocks. We just want to push numbers. And if our opponent tries to block us, we have ways to punishing them blocking us with like toxins and just having our reactions and just a bunch of ways where if you block us incorrectly, we can punish you. um, so I'm not going to go too basic because I assume if you're playing this deck, you understand how it works. And then if you don't really know how it works, you'll see how it functions when I go like through to test hands, or you can just watch some videos of some gameplay I have. But important thing, flick knives. It's really good because the best thing about this deck is the Chelicera. Like this is the strongest weapon that we have access to. It's like a 1-for-1 go again when they're marked, and if we're in base mode, it's 1-for-2 go again. And the stealth tag lets us interact with all of the forms, all of the stealth related cards, and it's just overall it makes this whole deck exist. Without this token, this deck would suck ass and probably wouldn't be playable in this variant of like known as Wario with all the daggers. So I'm just gonna go over some key parts in the game of the deck, what the basic premise is, and just how you should think and function with like certain hands, and then I'll show you some examples. So we just run like really good 0/4s. So a 0/4, this is kind of like a 0/4, but also another identity. This is a 0/3, but the mark is around worth 1 value because of our base mode and like synergies with other stuff. This is also like a 0/4. This is a 0/3, but the go again sometimes comes up. So it's like a 1/3, but usually comes in for 0. The go again has text. But the fact it's a block free is also like partly like yeah, so this is like one of those reactions where you don't mind blocking because it has a better defense value. Toxin is one of the best cards in the deck. You can always just use it to pump, but if you get to go minus as well, it's like a 0/6, really strong. One of the reasons you beat a lot of these slower decks. To the point, it's a 0/3, but it's also 0/4. So like as if you realize like another 0/4, like the reason this deck does well is a lot of its proactive cards are 0/4s. So like even like All Weaver, this looks like this is like you look at this, you go to 0/3. it makes the weapon which we want, so it's like a crucial like identity card. But if we already have the graphene, what this spinneret does is it means that we can go like Clave, flick the graphene, play this, and then get a new one anyway. So it's also a 0 for 4. So the first one you play, like the first graphene you set up is a 0 for 3, and then the next other future orb weavers all have +1 value because you get to flick with them. So they're also 0 for 4s. And then obviously save is a 0 for 4, leave is a 0 for 4. Do you understand like the premise of the deck? It's just like we have put in all the cards that are like 0 for 4 value, or like close enough to be around that, and that's why we are able to be such a strong proactive aggro deck. And then yeah, you got Mark, which is a free, but then +1 of base mode, and then it has disruption, so that makes up for it. Pain is also 0 for 4 if it's not blocked. Pickup is just insurance about retrieving if you want to flick and you need to get a dagger back. Passion to pop up for Prism. Pop up for Prism that sometimes is more proactive in other matchups. So because of Codex of Frailty, this card is like more playable than it looks. Traps are just in here because we have to roll 6. So regarding traps is this list is on like a 2-1 rotation, but I think it would probably be more correct to run 1 Den over the one of the inertias and just have like a 1-1-1-1 split. And especially if you run the 1-1-1 split, you can like think about running under the trapdoor. So I'll get into the blues in a sec, but pretty much our reds are just all 0 for 4s. That's why they're in. The reds are pretty much like finalized. The one change I could say you can make is if you think there's 0 prisms in your area, you can change Bastion into a different tech card. You can keep the 1 Death Touch if you'd like, or you can change it as well. The traps you can change 1 to like maybe have an extra Mark 1 for base. Or if there's a lot of warriors in your area, you could try the frailty one. Like you can customize the traps to what your meta is. I just think these is better in in the current meta. Inertia traps really good against Earth heroes, and Earth heroes are like the scariest matchup for the deck currently. And then the final thing you can do changing is regarding the reds is you could run free pain 1 pickup. You should always have at least 1 pickup in your AD because it's really good to have in like a lot of slower matchups. Just because sometimes when you have a grindy game, you want a codex of frailty, a pickup to retrieve. Like obviously you don't want to do this every single time, but you'll be in the moment where you'll be like, oh, I really wish I had one of these. So just usually having 1 pickup in your deck always good. Final changes you can make to the reds based on your preference is sigils are here for Isilio, Verdance, like arcane related. It's also useful against Syndra. It's also you'll see that we have like a bunch of ponder targets. Having this pondered in our arsenal is worth more than pondering a D-React. So that's why I've decided for sigils, but if you'd like to, you could just make them into shelters. That's what they were at one point. You can just have shelters if you feel like you want more 0 for 4 defense reactions in your overall list. But, regarding yellows, there's free frailty and free inertia. So frailty, you should really strong card. I'm sure you're all used to it by now. You just get it to get back like a powerful red. So like common ones would be like Leave No Witness or a CNC or like a Death Touch, or like the Pick Up the Point that I just talked about. But then with this type of dagger list, sometimes you'll just have like a hand of like Upsticks, Saver, and yeah, just like Upsticks, Saver, and like a Codex. And then you can sometimes you just go Upsticks, Saver into a Kiss of Death, and you're just doing like a free card 12 with an on-hit draw. Especially if they're marked or you have access to flick for on-hit draw, lose life, etc. Really powerful turn. So Um, so yeah, obviously that's what frailty's for. Then inertia is just there for like earth matchups and like a lot of. So I run like 2 in most matchups now because as you see, our deck is full of all these powerful cards, and I just want more access to them. And more access to them is pondering and putting the top card in my arsenal. And then the inertia also denies my opponent having 5 cards. These are all like really strong value effects. So like a common play pattern is, let's say you go swing clave, pitching a blue. You use like to the point or whatever on it. You just use your buffs on that clave attack. Then you're left with 1 resource floating and a Codex of Inertia. You play Codex of Inertia. You make your, let's say, ideal scenario, your opponent gets one in their arsenal, discards, etc. You give them inertia, you get ponder, and then whatever you put in your arsenal, you put in like up sticks. So you just get to go up sticks into your Carissa, then attack, and then you get to ponder. Then your codex of inertia is worth like around 10 value from like your opponent discarding, losing, then getting hit by the inertia, then you pondering, then you drawing as well. And then obviously the card you traded into was also another 0 for 4 that was in your deck. Like, you can see like the upsides of this deck. Obviously the low end is this card will do nothing except give inertia and ponder, but even that is like breaking even, right? Like denying your opponent a card is around 3 value, and then you pondering a card is around 3 value. Obviously the deny might not always happen because they might be able to use everything. But you're like forcing them to use something, so there's like still like intrinsic value there that you might not realize. It's the reason why the inertia traps are really strong. So like at worst, like a codex breaks even, right? And like for a yellow, that's fine. And because we're like a proactive card, we don't really worry about the block number because we're just trying to push anyways. Because we're decks, we're like, that's what I'm saying. We're like an aggro deck sometimes because we've got so many 0 for 4s. And then the blues. I'm currently testing a bunch of stuff on the blues, to be honest with you. But like the basic premise of I want my blues is I want them to ponder well because I'm running the codexes, the frailties. Oh, and for the record, I run 3 Codex of Inertia personally. You don't have to run 3. You could run 1 or 2. If you wanted to take out a Codex of Inertia, I would just swap it out for like an extra blue that you would like. So like, and also if you want to like not run them at all, like you're just really uncomfortable playing with Codex of Inertias, you can swap them into some of these like Fables. So you could run the Attire you'd like. You could run the Schism if you'd like. Obviously, just these cards can't be run with Inertia because Inertia puts a top card in our arsenal. So yeah. Regarding the blues, I just have 2 that say on hit disruption, and then I have 2 reactions. Though if I ponder them, I don't mind. Like so, like because I don't really want to be pondering ever. You obviously don't want to ponder blue, right? You want to ponder one of these reds, but you want to be in a situation where if you do ponder it, you don't want to deny yourself that value. Because sometimes if you ponder one of these blues, you sometimes just have to skip arsenal, which is really sad. So if you just make your blues cards that you can put in your arsenal, not worry about it, then you can get like a lot of value that way as well. So I'm just running these 2 reactions that are easy to get out. You don't have to run these if you don't want to. That's the reasoning behind it. And if you don't like them, I'm going to show some alternatives. So you could run. Oh yeah, so you could run Blue Widow. I don't have it anymore, but you can run Blue Mark the Widow if you want more disruption on hits. You can run Shreds if you feel like it, but they can be a little bit dangerous. You can run like Reapers if you need the Schisms and the Attire if you take out the inertias. Overcrowded if you're worried about other assassins in your area. Amnev Echoes is like for Cilio only. Under the Trapdoor is a good card as well. Like it's a way to make your blocking more efficient when you get to transfer it into like some form of like a value, either being marking or inertia. But in reality, these are just some examples. But in reality, your blues are just there to block free or pitch free, and sometimes you ponder them and then you just have to use them. And then I've just got these in because easy to use, easy access. But yeah, do what you like with them. Think regarding the deck, there should be most of it. Just quick rundown for you there. I'm just going to Talishar. Just some quick single player. This is just mainly just to talk about what hands look like. So I'll just run. I'll just run like all the good tempo cards just to show you what they would look like in a game. I guess we'd still have 1 trap. So obviously we have an example of multiple books in our hand, which is a bit sad. But what we could do in this situation is, if we're trying to just push numbers, I think a very nice thing to do would be we can just go like this, right? We can just go attack. And if you've seen, this frailty doesn't do anything. So we're probably just going to discard it for this inertia, but we're in no rush. We could flick it, but I don't think we want to. So this just 10-0. We're just playing the cards as they are. I guess I should play this as it is 10-0 and rather not just play around cards. So 10-0. We don't want to keep. I should go through thought processes. It's probably more useful for you guys. So, what do we want to look at our hand, right? We don't really want to keep this blue because it doesn't give us good tempo. So we want to get rid of this blue. We don't really want to keep both of these codexes in the same hand because they clash with each other. So we could cycle this to have more access to better ponders, better arsenal cards. So you could just play this codex of frailty. It depends. So this is when the matchup comes out. So you could play this card, get yourself an opponent of frailty, get yourself a ponder, and then just move on with your day. Or then you could do similar with inertia, but you risk them having the 5-card hand. But then you confirm that the next card hand is going to be a 4-card hand, which is quite useful. But just to keep it nice and simple, we're going to just ignore what our opponents potentially could do, and we're just going to play for ourselves. So let's say we went first. We don't want a frailty because we don't have an attack, so we shouldn't keep this card. And if we wanted our opponent to mulligan less, we would use the knives out on this clave attack, and that gives our opponent less chance to block for value to mulligan their hand. So that's probably the correct line, but I'm just playing through quick here. So we just wanted to. So we're keeping the cards we want, which are the Codex of Inertia and the Save of Bloodshed. We even could have just pitched both the codexes and played the knives out and just Arsenal the Saver. That also would have been quite good for us. But on turn 0, you kind of want to flick your knife away all the time because you want to just give yourself free space to have a Chalicer be ready for you. So we've drawn extremely well here. Extremely well. We have a way to cheat mana. We have a way to cheat mana, being the Kiss of Death. I guess I didn't really talk about that, but yeah, but pretty much Kiss of Death is really strong for cheating mana because it's a 0-cost dagger attack. So when we run all our dagger related cards, we don't have to pitch. And if we don't have to pitch, that means we get to play our cards proactively and get to play them for more value than they're worth. So this is just one of those amazing turns for us where we just get to do a Kiss of Death. And we get to set up a graphene for next turn. We just get to push some numbers. I think in a real game, I would break legs here. I guess I should, based on what my opponent would do, because the go again on this card is really strong in this situation. And we're gonna get the draw. Then we get to show some really. This is a real game. This would be insanely turned game winning already. So we get to attack with a kiss. That makes them banish a card. We get to flick with a kiss. So let's say if our opponent also did block, we'd have access to the toxin as well. If our opponent gave up all their cards, we can do the similar line with toxin. The opponent does this, we get a Black Widow, we get a kiss, and we get to do the dagger, and then we again get to use this inertia for a way to have the best potential out value because we have 1 floating for our weapon, and we have nothing to discard, and we just have a waste to draw. So we just get to hit them here, and we drew a 0 for free reaction. So then the inertia was then transformed into free value, then the ponder for another free value, which ponders unfortunately a blue. We have tempo, so this is a situation where skipping could be correct, but we'll just alternate for now just to show you what it looks like. And we've given the inertia to our opponent. So this is also a good example of we can just take this because we're gonna have to keep. Usually we'd like to happily block this, go tunic, weapon, react, pass turn, happy days. But we need to. Well, this is just to show you what hands look like, so we're gonna play a little bit more loose. But then we see here that Arsling the surgical when we knew we were gonna have tempo because our opponent was gonna have an off turn. We know that's just a mistake. But And this is also another reason why like a card like Knives Out, and Coercive are much more exciting because they're not bricky. Like this 2 cost in our arsenal is going to be potentially really annoying to get out. Because otherwise, we were just happily going to go Tunic, Graphene, Swing, even block, and then go like pump, then play like a really nice turn. But yeah, there's no point overthinking these. These are just to show you like fluidity of some turns. But then now we have the blue, so now we can get rid of the surgical. They'll cost us the Tunic. I'm just gonna restart the game real quick, just to give you like a idea. So we had like a really good start there because we drew some really good cards. So, like if we look at this hand as well, it's just 0 for 4, 0 for 4, 0 for 4, 0 for 3. We kind of need to have our opponent be marked ideally, and to make a slot, so we have to attack. None of these attacks. We unfortunately have to pitch these cards into the clave. We're just gonna do a nice simple. And then like this is like I guess this is like another good sign. So like we banished, we flip into trapdoor. Like there's a lot of the times you want to helmet into mode 3, and that's just so you get to like have access to your like token weapon as soon as possible. And then when you transform from trapdoor, you still get to use the D-react. So this is like something that happens quite often, where your turn 2, you're gonna go transform into Orb Weaver. This time we got lucky and we rolled into 6, so we get to heal an extra 3 life this turn for no reason. Because we were never going to use whatever other form we rolled into, because we need to make sure we get our weapon online. So, and this is like the power of one of Arakni's powers. You turn these blues that weren't going to do much for you, and it's why the assassin tag on all of our blues is really important, and why we try to avoid the generics. Is look how this hand has just been fully unlocked by this helmet. This hand would have been like an okay turn where we like do like a clay for like 5, and then maybe 9. Then we like do a CNC. Then we'd pitch this red back into the CNC, and like that wouldn't be like a bad turn. But now we get to go 15 and Arsenal, which is the power that having the graphene on and having the wet head smooth out this entire turn was. And now, so on turn 0, we didn't need it. We didn't pitch a blue because we didn't need to. On turn 2, we didn't pitch a card either because Orbeaver, that's his attack for 0 mana. Now we're on turn 3. If we wanted to, we wouldn't have to pitch again because we could block with this blue and use this Tunic to attack with this Graphene. And then I'll just do it because it's against a bot. The bot's not going to block, so I'll just show you, for example. But like, yeah, we get to just go like Saver into a Tunic, into attacking, and then this won't have go again because they weren't marked, but we flick, and then it gets on hit go again, and then this keeps them marked for our Mark of the Black Widow if we decide that we want to use it. But yeah, so with this situation, like, it just shows. I'm just showing you like, I don't think these turns that I'm playing are like the correct turns, but I'm just showing you how like your sequencing of your like moments look like, where like turn 0 you do whatever, turn 1 you cheat needing mana from your headpiece, and then like turn 2, well I guess turn 1 you do whatever, turn 2 you cheat mana off your headpiece, turn 3 you use Tunic to cheat mana again. So we're quite red heavy and we can be low on blues, but that's because the deck is designed to like cheat mana and play with like your weapons really efficiently. And obviously, if you have a blue and you don't want to use like some of these cards, you can just pitch a blue to go clave into graphene. Like these are fine turns to do. But yeah, Obviously, I don't want to not to try and overcomplicate things. I'm just trying to keep this. But like, part of the reason this deck can function is Tunic lets you attack for 0 card economy when you have a Graphene out. So we want to have a Graphene out as soon as possible. Orb Weaver lets you have a way to do the same where you cheat my mana by attacking with an Orb Weaver. And then the rest of the modes are just like turn my card into free value in some way, doing something. Arakni Trapdoor, as we saw, is just a way to heal free sometimes for like by using a card. So that's why we run like around 1 to 2. You run around 1 to 3 traps based on matchups. In really, really fast games, you run 1 and you just hope that you don't see it and it stays in your deck in case you roll into 6. And then in slow games, you can run like 2 or 3 based on like if you want the defense reactions, if you want the traps text to be relevant. Like against Earth, I run both the inertia ones because they're always relevant, but the layer won't be relevant, so I don't run it. But as I said, this inertia one could also just be 1 den because the marking has good value, especially when you're trying to be proactive. Just even if the mark itself, sorry, even if the mark itself isn't doing anything for you, like on any of the cards in your hand, if you end the turn, if you like blocked out with the D reacts and then you just pass turn on your turn, then you roll it to transform. Then next turn you might have turned one of these random blues into free value relevance with by using one of the modes. Like ending with them marked is usually like something that you should try and aim to do if possible, but don't like lose value to do it. If that makes sense. Um, but yeah, it's also one of the things you have to get used to when you play it is just knowing how to make sure you're set up to not like brick. It's like if you drew 4 reds, you can still go like play a card, graphene, have a reaction, like pitch a red for the graphene, then have a reaction ready. But ideally, you'd want to be access to try and time your tunics for the red hands. Like try and save your tunics for the red hands. Try and if you can also a kiss of death to have that ready for your next turn to feature all your buffs. Or like a codex is the same as like having a kiss of death, but you need to make sure it's front pumps and not like reactions. And it's just like there are a bunch of ways for you to like work around the pitch issue that you can have by having lower pitches, but because we have lower pitch, our deck is full of more gas and heat. So that's how we're able to just push numbers through a lot of these lower decks I like blocking, and it's how we're able to race the deck like Syndra, for example. And like I said, I have gameplay of some of these matchups, so you just sit down and watch them, see what it looks like when this deck is just gas, gas, gas racing. I think the Syndra's a good example of that one. And then same with like the Florian one. I'm gonna try and post more, but I'm not like 100% right now. My voice is a bit croaky. But I'll try and do some for you guys. I thought I'd just do this quick like rundown of the deck and just show some really quick example hands. More of just like a foundational thing and hopefully useful for you guys. Anyways, that's me. I'll be peacing out. Have a lovely day.